Hi, I'm Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mervis, and you're watching Rabbi Doug, and I want to give you very best wishes, kol tov to all of you, and may Hashem bless you all.
Go to watch Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.
Forget about the network programs. Forget about all the great cable shows. There's only one thing for me on Mondays and Tuesday nights. Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna watch Rabbi Doug. Yeah, we're gonna watch Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. We are here in Chicago, Illinois, West Rockers Park, where the Rothner family is donating a Torah to Congregation Beth Itzchok in memory of Ricky Rothner's parents, Eric Rothner's parents, Shirley and Nathan Rothner of blessed memory. And I'm here with the Aronson family, and we are here in their home because, as you'll see in a few moments, the finishing of the Torah is taking place in their home, and then there's going to be a parade marching to Congregation Beth Itzchok, where the Torah will be placed in the ark and be used regularly in the congregation. And why don't you all, can we start with you, introduce yourselves with your first names?
Hi, I'm Penny Aronson.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Esty. Aviva Aronson. I'm Kobe.
So, Kobe said to me, I want to be on your TV show. He finally has the chance after all these years of saying this to me. Why did your family get involved why did your family get involved in the Sefer Torah and doing this?
Well, the Rothner family is very involved in the synagogue, and they study the Sefer Torah, and my husband is president of the synagogue. Dr. Adam Aronson. And Rabbi Lager is a very close Rabbi. Rabbi Lager is very close with Sefer Torah, and he decided to do our house because we live across the street from the synagogue, just because it's actually our house.
Kobe, you were so excited about this Sefer Torah. You got a chance to actually have Rabbi Bader be a shaliach for you and write in the Torah, correct? Is this the first time you ever had a letter written in the Torah by you?
Yes.
How exciting is that for you?
Amazing.
What do you think about the idea of having a Torah written partly by you as a shaliach who's doing it for you for a real Sefer Torah?
It's an amazing opportunity.
Good. What do you think about the whole idea of doing the Sefer Torah here?
It's a very special event.
All right. Well, I'm happy to be here with you, my friend. And I also teach Kobe often, and he's a wonderful young man, and this is a wonderful family. Stay with us here on Taped with Rabbi Doug as we join in the procession with the Rothner Sefer Torah as it's completed, and it's going to be a great event for the entire Jewish community, so stay with us.
Your guys, 1, 2, 3. Nice.
Yeah, I got it.
Did I get in it?
Mr. Rothner's going to finish.
Rabbi Alan Abramson having a letter written for him.
Yeah, we're ready. Oh, so you should sit down. Well, bring him around.
Rabbi Alan Abramson having a letter written for him now.
Rabbi Zev Cohen having a letter written for him. Yoni Bernstein now having a letter written for him. Rabbi Langer, the rabbi of the synagogue, now having a Torah letter written for him. Rabbi Bader, the sufferer. Rabbi David Zucker having a letter written in the Torah for him. And now Mr. Eric Rothner, who commissioned the Torah, is going to have the Torah finished.
Really? Be quiet.
He's not going to find him.
Mazel tov.
Ricky, look over here. Big smiles. Good. All right.
Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Shamos.
Good nigga.
Simen tov, mazel tov, yelanu, Kol Yisrael. Simen tov, mazel tov, yelanu, Kol Yisrael. Simen tov, mazel tov, Simen tov, mazel tov, yelanu, Kol Yisrael. Torah Hashem Temima, Torah Hashem Temima, Teshivas Nofel. Torah Hashem Temima, Torah Hashem Temima, Torah Hashem Temima, Teshivas Nofel. Yedus Hashem. Zosa Torah, Shersa Moshe, L'Knei Yisrael, B'yad Adonai, B'yad Moshe. Yedus Hashem Temima, Teshivas Nofel. Torah Hashem Temima, Torah Hashem Temima, Torah Hashem Temima, Teshivas Nofel. Yedus Hashem. Hashem This is Rabbi Langer, the Rabbi of Beth Itzchok.
Wanted to thank everybody for coming, making it a very special Maimed. Certainly a very special thank you goes to Ricky for making all this happen. Sefer Torah and the lavish Shmuav Malka that everybody's invited to follow. As we finish Sefer Bereshis today, one of the things that inspires me about Sefer Bereshis, you see all the hashgacha pratis. You see a whole world. You see world wars taking place, famines, and it's all centered around one family. It's all happening because of one family, the Jewish people. It's all to see to it, Jewish people go down to Mitzrayim and should become a nation. And we see a tremendous amount of hashgacha pratis, and the truth is, in our lives, it's the same thing. We all know that the whole world is revolving around the Jewish people. About 22 years ago, I came to Chicago, to the Chicago Community Kollel, and Rabbi Francis set me up to give lectures once a week at the JCC. The topic was about different mitzvahs that came up. And it was getting to the summertime. There was a new person who showed up at the class. The class that week was about hashgacha pratis. That was the topic. And there was a woman who was sitting up in front. She seemed a little bit more observant than some of the others. And she sat there knitting her sweater. As the class was over, she commented to the other people, the other women at the class, and she was taking pride in her son Ricky, and she was saying how this Ricky, of her son, he supports all the different Jewish causes in Chicago, and telling her, all these women, about her son. I was new to the family. I knew the name Ricky, but his mother, his parents, at the time they were in Florida, they went there for the winter, so I never really got to meet what we call Uncle Nate and Aunt Shirley. And I said, Ricky, I also have a cousin who's a Ricky who I know, although I was new to the family, the name Ricky certainly we all knew. And I said, are you by any chance Mrs. Shirley Rothner? She was taken aback. How do you know? How do you know my name? I said, I'm your nephew. I'm your great nephew. And the entire class in unison, they all screamed out, Hashgacha Pratis. They were catching on. But the Hashgacha Pratis continues. Years ago in Chicago, before many of us were here, Chicago wasn't what it looks like today. We didn't have all the koilelim and the yeshivas and the shuls that we have today. But there were people that were meiser nefesh, for the sake of Torah, for chinuch habanim. And one of those people was Mr. Nate Rothner, or as known in the family as Uncle Nate. He was a person who came time the school couldn't pay the bills. They couldn't pay the teachers. And he took a mortgage on his own house. He took out a mortgage on his own house in order to pay the teachers. The school shouldn't fall under. Something unheard of today. But that was the Mesiris Nefesh. And is it not Hashgacha Pratis that Mr. Nate Rothner's son is here today supporting all the Jewish causes in Chicago? That's Hashgacha Pratis. At one of our meetings, we're having a Achnasa Sefer Torah. One of the meetings that we're having, I went in to look at the Aron Kodesh, and I saw inside there was a keser, a crown. And the crown said it was donated in Tuf Reish Pei Tes. That's over 90 years ago. And I got goosebumps when I saw that. I realized that this shul, Beth Itzchok, is really part of a Messiah going way back. Way back. Before we had all the 50, 60 shuls that we have, maybe even more today, before all the yeshivas, it's those shuls that were Orthodox shuls stayed true to Torah and to mitzvahs. And we here in Chicago have to be grateful to shuls like Beth Itzchok and to families like the Rothner family. It's because of them that we're able to be here today with all the yeshivas and the koilelim that we have and about the knessiyos. And to top everything off, it's the frosting on the cake. When we made tonight's Achnasa Sefer Torah, we're trying to make it in the summertime when the weather was nice. Who wants to come out in the freezing cold at night? And the things weren't working out and kept pushing off. And finally we said the week after Hanukkah, we'll do it this Motzei Shabbos. Ricky comes over to me at Thursday morning in shul and says that if he could have the Amid Sunday morning. It's his mother's yard site. We didn't plan it, but tonight is Mrs. Shirley Rothner's yard site. And if my class was here today, those senior citizens, they would all say in unison, Hashgacha Pratis. I just want to conclude. It's a short idea that I mentioned today. My Shabbos drasha. Daf Yomi had an interesting Gemara this past week. A story, Yeshua ben Nun. Yeshua ben Nun, he was leading the Jewish people into Eretz Yisrael. They crossed the Yarden. And they were getting ready to ambush the city of Yericho. And Yeshua had all the people out overnight. And the Gemara tells us that there are two things that Yeshua did that were incorrect. Number one is, because of Yehoshua, they weren't able to bring the carbon tamid, the daily carbon that was brought every afternoon. Because the people were not in the camp, they weren't able to bring that carbon. And number two, there was a lot of bittul Torah that was done. They weren't able to learn that night. And it wasn't necessary. And the Malach comes to reprimand Yehoshua and tells Yehoshua, you're at fault over here. And Yeshua responds to the Malach and says, which is the main fault over here? Which is the bigger crime? Is it not bringing the carbon tamid? Or is it the bittul Torah? And the Malach responds, Ata basi, Ata basi. And the Gemara tells us that Ata basi is referring to the bittul Torah, the not being able to learn Torah. And the word Atabasi, Taisus tells us, is a reference to the pasuk of Ata Kisvu Lachem Es Ashira Hazois. Write this Torah, Kisvu Lachem Es Ashira Hazois. The word Ata is referring to this pasuk. And the Panavish Rav Zatzal asks, why is it when the Malach wants to refer to Torah, he refers to this pasuk of Ata Kisvu Lachem Es Ashira Hazois? And the Panavish Rav answers, because in truth, Klal Yisrael were learning Torah through the night. They weren't in the camp, but they were learning Torah. But what was missing was the Shira. Torah is supposed to be like a song. It's supposed to be beautiful, sweet, like a song. Singing the niggin of Torah. It's supposed to be a beautiful song. And that's what was lacking. And that's what the Malach faults Yehoshua. We were missing the Shira of Torah. And it hit me, this pasuk, V'ata Kisvu Lachem Es Ashira Hazois. It's also the very last mitzvah of the Torah. It's the mitzvah to write a Sefer Torah. V'ata Kisvu Lachem Es Ashira Hazois. Write a Sefer Torah. And the word that the Torah uses to talk about the mitzvah of writing a Sefer Torah is the word Shira. Because when we write a Sefer Torah, it has to be with a Shira. It has to be beautiful. It has to be sweet. And I believe that's a minig, perhaps a makar to the minig that we do at Achnasa Sefer Torah. We have candy, sweets for the children. We have music. We're dancing. We show everybody how sweet the Torah is. As the Sefer HaChinuch tells us by the mitzvah of Hakel, the second to last mitzvah in the Torah. Mitzvah of Hakel happens once every 7 years. All of Klal Yisrael gets together to hear the Torah being read from the Melech, from the king. And what's the point of this mitzvah? Says the Sefer HaChinuch, so people should start asking, what's going on over here? Why are we all gathered here today? What's the big commotion about? And the answer will be, L'shmoya divrei Torah, shehi kol ikareinu v'haideinu v'sefarteinu. We're all here to hear the words of the Torah, which this is our essence. This is our splendor. This is our beauty. And that's the idea of Achnasa Sefer Torah. We all gathered here together. Hundreds and hundreds of people gathered together dancing with simcha, showing this is the Shira HaTorah. This is that Kol Ikareinu V'Haideinu V'Sefarteinu. It's our bracha. Tonight's Achnasa Sefer Torah should be a Lias Neshama for Mr. Nate Rothner, Mrs. Shirley Rothner. Should be a Lias for the Neshamas. And this display of Kavod HaTorah should be a zchus for all of us. And we should all be zaycha to witness the Haramas Karen HaTorah.
Mr. Eric Rothner.
First of all, I would like to thank all of those who are responsible, Rabbi Langer and his crew, of making this really a very, very memorable occasion. Yes, it was cold, but it was very, very warm with the torches and going through the park. The Skulener Rebbe coming to partake in this Achnasa Sefer Torah, and so many people from our community. Yes, indeed, tonight is my mother's yortzeit, and her neshama should have an aliyah. Amen. This is the 13th Torah that I and my family have had the schus to dedicate. Other than the 3 Torahs in Israel, that number 1, I gave a Sefer Torah in honor of my father's 80th birthday, which, if I figure right, it was probably over 30 years ago. And we gave that to Yeshurun. We gave, at the time of the Chicago Center of Eichenstein, had a 90th anniversary of what they've done, and we gave a Sefer Torah at that time. We gave the first Sefer Torah to the Weitzner Cheder here in Chicago. We've given a Sefer Torah to Solomon Schechter Day School. We've given a Sefer Torah to Heritage Russian Congregation, to the Skokie Kollel, Camp Nagila, to Yitzi Simchas Kollel, and to our own family, that when my aunt, my father's sister, died, and we wanted her husband to have a minyan on Shabbos in his home, so we wrote the Sefer Torah for my uncle. And now the shul that our family is involved in for truthfully the past 74 years, we are giving a Sefer Torah. In 1947, my parents moved into Albany Park. At that time, the Lawndale area, the west side was waning, and so we moved from the west side to the beginning of the next Jewish neighborhood, which was Albany Park. My parents lived, we were 3 children at the time. My parents lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. The living room was our dormitory, and my mother needed a backyard for her children and moved in and bought a 2-flat in Albany Park. Albany Park had a couple shuls and a kosher butcher shop. That was it. Over the next number of years, it grew. Other than a afternoon Hebrew school, there was no Jewish school, no Jewish day school in Albany Park till 1949, 1950. My oldest brother, who was in 6th grade at the time, took a CTA bus to the academy, which at that time had a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and a high school, a 45-minute bus ride, which at that time you could really go alone on a bus in 6th grade for a ride. My parents, who were founders together with the Ray and Rosenblum families, started Albany Park Hebrew Day School. It started with 5 students, of which I was one. There were 3 founders, each one donated a kid, and they must have found 2 children on the streets. The story of the Chicago Jewish Day School. So they didn't want to be called, first it was the Albany Park Hebrew Day School. And they wanted to expand its horizons and created the name of Chicago Hebrew Day School. At that time, there was a school on the west side called the Hebrew Parochial School. So the founders of the Hebrew Parochial School came to the founders of the Albany Park Hebrew Day School that changed their name to Chicago Jewish Day School and said, hey, we're Chicago also. So the following year, this is every year, first we paid $1 for a t-shirt for Albany Park Hebrew Day School. The next year we paid $1 for a t-shirt for the Chicago Jewish Day School. The 3rd year in a row, we paid another $1 for the next name, which was the Central Hebrew Day School. And that name remained all throughout the time until it became the Ari Crown Day School.
Well, that's it here at Congregation Beth Itzchok with the Rothner Torah in memory of Nathan and Shirley Rothner. We want to thank Eric Rothner. We want to thank the Erickson family and everyone here at Beth Itzchok. Remember, you can check out our website, www.tvrabbi.com. You can also see former shows on the web. If you want to email us, info@tvrabbi.com is the email address. Hope to see you next time right here on Take with Rabbi Doug. Shalom, everyone. Mazel tov.
This has been a Taped with Rabbi Doug production.